Hi, Christian. Good to be able to interview you again. And as you call yourself, the love guru. And I know that in the last video we started speaking about this tension between love and being able to create deep intimacy in love versus being able to hold the tension of polarity. And I wanted to ask you today, what are some of the biggest mistakes that happen out there in the relationship world that you have experienced for people who are trying to come to balance those two forces?
The biggest mistake. One before I think talk about the biggest mistake. One is I want to bring some empathy and compassion to people's experience, because in reality, no one has ever talked to you about this. No one has ever talked to you. Like, there's no education out there around relationship, intimacy, sex. And then you turn teenage years and you find these hormones running through you, and all of a sudden you're really attracted to the opposite sex and you want to come together and, like this. And then next thing you know, you end up with someone and you're in love with them and you have no idea what the hell you're doing. So before we call it even a mistake, it's I'd say people, they're not consciously, like, they're not doing mistakes. They just don't know any better. No one's really talked to us about this. One thing that I think it's really, like, if we think about as a big mistake, is that when we communicate with our partners, or when we have to understand that our partner has a completely different view and understanding in relationship to the world around them, and then to intimacy, to relationship, to sex. What's important to them, it's different than what's important to you. So a lot of times we're communicating, we're expressing ourselves, and we forget to see how is it from the other point of view. And what's really sad about this is because everyone thinks they're coming from a place of deeply loving and caring for their partner, but and then the partner gets, you say something and then your partner gets hurt and you're like, what just happened? I was just telling you how much I love you, essentially. And then the other person, like, I never want to talk to you again, because you're not perceiving the world through their eyes. You don't know. You don't stop to think and try to really get to know your partner. Try to really be open and curious to their experience, and try to really understand how your way of being, how your way of interacting, how your way of communicating lends to them. And so that's just having that open mind, that mindset can make a huge difference in your relationship. And there's some really basic things, some people don't like to talk about men and women are different. And speaking about the polarity, there is something that there's natural, there's things that happen that I find and that overall are true in intimate sexual relationships, that women want to be seen and understand in one way, men want to be seen and understand in one way, and they're totally different of each other. So then, as if you're speaking French and she's speaking German, and you guys don't understand each other. So for one, I would say we need to get on the same, start to understand the other person's language. And I think one place where people kill the polarity the most is where they come to a place where, like, let's speak the same language. So let's both learn Italian, for example, and that kills, there's no polarity. The polarity was one speaking French, one speaking German, and that broke the spark. But instead of trying to learn a third language where now let's understand each other, just understand her language and she needs to understand your language, and you need to learn to play and dance inside of that, instead of trying to find a middle ground, because in the middle ground there's no polarity. And it's a good place to come to if you want to solve problem or pay bills, or figure out what needs to happen to get stuff done if you guys live together. But to bring that spark, you have to keep that polarity, and you have to understand it and play with it.
So instead of learning to speak like a therapist, you should actually learn to
understand the other person's language.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, therapy and intimate relationship can kill the sexual attraction big time. And there's basic things, like, for example, men like when women like when the man leads, men like when the woman surrenders, right? That's in general something that overall happens. So how do we understand that? Like, what do we like? I feel like we don't even have understanding and compassion for that. Like, both sides are kind of demanding and entitled about it. But let's say the women don't really sit and take a moment to understand to lead. For a man, to lead a woman that he's really attracted to, it's extremely vulnerable, and it's really hard, and it takes incredible amount of awareness and understanding and responsibility, right? He might be able to lead a whole world or have a successful company, but to lead a woman into a deeper experience, it's so much more vulnerable. Men don't understand that if they want their woman to be open and surrendered, that takes a whole other thing. Like, to me, to surrender means to let go of control. So that means, in order for me to let go of control, I have to trust you with everything I have. And that's why you have to understand that to surrender, it's extremely vulnerable in its own way, which is very different. And that's why I like to have people experience both energies. One way to, like, when I surrender, like, for example, when I'm sitting on a massage table, I love to fully surrender. And if the masseuse is asking me, like, do you like it hard? Do you like it soft? Is this okay? I go into my head and I'm not surrendered anymore. It's like, I don't know. I'm paying you money for you. You should know. Like, I don't know. Is it hard? Maybe it is hard, but isn't it supposed to be hard? Like, I'm in the surrender place where I can't even make a decision because I entrusted with my body for an hour to a masseuse, right? So, if you're asking for a woman to go to a place where she can't even surrender to a place where she can't even make a decision for herself, she has to trust you immensely. So, the same way, if the masseuse is leading the experience, he has to fully be present with my body and me and what's happening, what I need and how I need it, and where the knot is, and to know that the knot maybe needs to be touched more tenderly, where the other place could take more force. That it creates that, that's what it's to lead, to have that awareness, that presence, that listening to the other person. Anyway, these are very general and broad strokes, but and I recommend couples to switch and play one leading, one surrendering, just so they can know both spaces and energies. So these are few places where people make mistakes, but I think I brought a couple of times bringing some empathy, compassion, curiosity towards the other person, and knowing that both places take skill and awareness and vulnerability, and then you can ask from that place while you're fully acknowledging that, would make it a lot more powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you.